call this meeting of the Hardin County Board of Education to order. Here, do I have, where is it?
Throw a hammer at him.
There we go. All right. First time I've gotten to do that. All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. If everyone will please stand and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Always good to see a lot of faces out there. Before we get started on other things, I'm going to ask for us to have a moment of silence. We lost two people associated with our school system recently. One is Mary Lynn, who was with our Early Learning Academy, and then Kenneth Hayden, who was a former board member. So if you'll please join me for a moment of silence for them. Thank you. And Mr. Bland, do you have our board commitments?
I will. To improve our effectiveness, the Hardin County Board of Education commits to keep children first, to listen, to be prepared, to be professional, to demonstrate financial stewardship, to represent the entire district and support district goals, and to support board decisions.
Thank you. All right, and Mr. Wright, you have our recognitions?
Yes, ma'am. So we have our HCS Better Together Award recognitions this evening, Madam Chair. You'll pass that resolution. We'll recognize some wonderful folks.
Do you have a motion?
I move that we, see, how do I normally say it? Move that we recognize a certain number of individuals as printed herein.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Chloe Fry. Chloe, come on up here. Chloe is a Central Hardin High School senior. Mr. Casey has an award for you. She was part of an extremely special project. The Make-A-Wish Foundation connected Jones Home Center in Upton, right here in Hardin County, with a special request to help in building a young lady's dream playhouse with a 2-week turnaround time. Chloe is a co-op student at Jones Home Center, so her work was critical to the project. She helped order materials, assisted in the design process, and was in charge of putting the furnishings of the playhouse together. Chloe and members of the Campbellsville University bass fishing team, that includes a CHHS alum, and many others made a very special young lady's dream come true. So thank you, Chloe. We appreciate you. Thank you. And parents, stand up. We want to recognize you all as well, just for being her mom and dad. Just wave. Okay, there we go. We want to thank you for raising a wonderful young lady. Chris Lawrence. Chris is happy to be here. But Chris is a custodian at Woodland Elementary, and board, you'll have a special appreciation for Ms. Lawrence. She is worthy of this month's staff award because of her dedication to task and passion for students. Because Chris knows the Woodland Elementary School building inside and out, she noticed that something just didn't look right while changing the HVAC unit filters in the building. She noticed that some trusses had been cut where they shouldn't have been while crews were completing HVAC work. She immediately contacted the proper district officials, who reached out to our friends at Icon Engineering. Chris's quick action started immediate work to correct a major problem that could have had terrible results. And that we all know what happened with that this weekend, and thank you. We truly appreciate it. All right, Major Chris Streck, come on
and
up here.
And her family is here too, Mr.
Oh, yes, yeah, Chris's family, wave. All right. This is Major Chris Streck. He has worked feverishly to make the Salvation Army a hub of resources for families and people in need. He has invested his energies in the following projects. He's become an integral part in the community, working with HCS Family Resource and Youth Service Centers, the United Way, Helping Hand of Hope, and Community Action. His work has assisted thousands of students and families with holiday assistance by working with organizations, agencies, and churches, and Hardin County Schools. He is committed to the betterment of this community and the individuals and families that he serves. We appreciate you, sir. Thank you very much. All right, are Trinity Searcy and Kevin Addington here? Are they here, guys? All right, well, I'll read about them. So Trinity Searcy and Kevin Addington, they're local business owners, and they have been critical in helping North Park Elementary School and new principal Laura Beth Hayes prepare for the school year. Mr. Searcy owns Carbeck, which is an equipment solutions firm, devoted some of his crew members to mow, trim, and spread mulch. And he contacted Mr. Addington, owner of Addington Transportation, who brought equipment in to move and spread mulch, even more mulch. So they have no ties to the school whatsoever, other than hearing that Mrs. Hayes had a need. So Mr. Searcy surprised Mr. Hayes by initiating the work, and we're grateful to those two. So thank you to Mr. Addington and Trinity Searcy. So let's give them a- And now, Madam Chair, I have a special presentation. I'm going to invite Shay Rogers and Brian Wiseman from Houchins Industries to the podium. Come on in, guys. Ms. Morgan, this was not my idea.
I had dinner with you the other night.
And he almost gave it away.
I did.
Did you
I
catch
did.
on that? He almost talked about us being at the board meeting.
So, on behalf of Houchins Insurance Group, we want to celebrate with you on winning Superintendent of the Year. Nice. We understand how deserving you are of this award, and so we wanted to give you this plaque to commemorate it. And in addition to that,
In addition, we know the reason you get up every morning is not just to see the board members or talk to Jess or all that. We know that. But we know your love and your passion are the students, and that's why you're here, or you wouldn't do it every day. So on behalf of Houchins and Trans-America, we're giving to you $10,000. We want to help, we heard a little birdie told us that maybe you want to supply maybe tennis shoes for the kids or something. So this is going to be $10,000 towards the shoes and coats for the women, for your district.
You bring $10,000.
thank you.
You get to keep it. That's all you're doing. And we, yeah, the real money just went out. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks, Shay. Thanks, Brian. And now I'd like to bring up another special guest, Representative Steve Bratcher. Representative Bratcher.
Well, I also want to, as a state legislator, recognize the Superintendent of the Year right here, Terry Morgan, Superintendent Morgan. So I've got a legislative citation here for you. It just talks about how wonderful you are, really, and that you went to Brescia College and you were a superintendent. Before you were a superintendent, you were a teacher. You were assistant principal, and basically moved up, and you've done some stellar work. And because of your educational committees that you've been on and some other things you've done, that you have really moved this, don't take for granted every day that what you do, and that you really love what you do. And I can tell you, I don't know, I'm just trying to keep up with Superintendent Morgan because she's everywhere all the time. So as a matter of fact, I think I saw you last night at the chamber event too. So it was. So I have a story that when I first met Superintendent Morgan, I was in the process of putting together a coding academy at ECTC, and Superintendent Morgan came over to the office. We met with some students and some parents about how this could advocate for them. And every time that I talk with Superintendent Morgan, she's always about what's best for the students of Hardin County. And that's pretty admirable, as well as I don't think she doesn't go too long after that without telling me how much more teachers need to get paid, because we know that retaining and recruiting the best and the brightest is the way you get to that next level. So I recognize that. So I just wanted to give from the House of Representatives, and then I think maybe Senator Matt Deneen couldn't be here. He had some other obligations, but I think he sent you one as well. So thank you for all your hard work.
By the way, I have his name written on my hand because I have to contact him about the next thing we need.
I'm sure it has nothing to do with money.
Don't go far.
That's all the surprises, Mrs. Johnson. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Sutton, you have our focus on academics.
I think Mr. Stiff's going to order a bigger trophy case for back here. They're already full. That's awesome. Congratulations. Focus on academics tonight. We got a lot of presentations for you all. We're going to start off with our Director of Education Development, Ms. Shelley Clark. She's going to be here with one of our assistant principals, Ms. Deandra Parker, one of our teachers, Ms. Anissa Beeler, talk about our Grow Your Own program. We're going to start with that, and then we're going to finish off with Ms. Dana Garrett talking about project-based learning and some of the units she has created. So turn it over to Shelley.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton. And so Mr. Wright is putting up a presentation for us real quickly, just to talk about what Grow Your Own is, and then we have two fabulous staff members from our district to talk about their personal experience with Grow Your Own. But as we know, Grow Your Own is a partnership we have with Western Kentucky University. Over 20 school districts in our state, including Hardin County, participate in this initiative. WKU started it as an effort to ease the teacher shortage by identifying high school seniors and classified staff who are interested in teaching careers. So go ahead to the next one there, Mr. Wright. These are the three that we offer in Hardin County. We have our classified to certified, which currently we have 41 staff members participating. 16 of those staff members already have graduated from being classified to certified because they're in classrooms teaching, working on their Masters of Arts in Teaching. And one of the ladies we have here tonight, Ms. Anissa Beeler, is in that exact situation. So we're happy to have her to talk about that here in a second. And the principal certification, we actually have two cohorts going on right now. We work with E-Town Independent Schools, and we have those classes here at the WKU E-Town campus. There's currently 13 participants, and 2 of them are already serving as assistant principals in our district, and Ms. Deandra Parker is here tonight to talk on behalf of the principal cohort. And then high school graduates just started in the fall of 2023. 12 of our high school graduates are working on their degree at WKU with tuition assistance. And then we also decided, we're not going to limit it just to WKU. If you want to go to college and become a teacher, we're going to let you go to the college of your choice, but you don't get quite as much money because that college doesn't match tuition like WKU does. But we have 6 students that are pursuing degrees at other Kentucky universities with assistance from Hardin County Schools. So it gives us a total of 72 people that we're currently assisting to work toward a teacher certification. This right here shows you how much money we're spending so far. So since the summer of 2022, which is when all of these programs started, you can see we've invested a total right now of $66,407.75. That does not include our fall 2023 tuition payments. So Western Kentucky University has decided to wait and bill at the end of the semester to make sure that we get all those drop add classes, all that stuff that happens in college, and to make sure that we're paying the exact right amount and that we're not, they have all their scholarships and grants applied before we apply our money. But estimated costs will probably be around $40,000 just for this semester due to the addition of the high school graduates. So you can kind of see where we're going with that with the finances. What's next? So our upcoming applications, we're going to add another round of classified to certified. That application will go out after fall break, and then we'll add some more high school seniors when they graduate in May, and their application will go out in January 2024. And I'll be going around to all of the high schools and EC3 to talk to those students that might be interested. We're going to start to focus a little bit more, though, on critical shortage areas. We have a lot of people in the Grow Your Own right now that are doing elementary education, and we love our elementary ed teachers. But as we all know, we are also struggling to find middle and high school math and science teachers, special education teachers, and even preschool teachers at times. So we really want to try to convince some of those people to go into those fields if we can, and try to find applicants that will meet those requirements. We're going to add a rubric for candidate selection, so it'll be a committee decision and not just one or two people making the decision about who gets in there, have some criteria for that. And then all of that information I'm going to put on a website that will be coming very soon. And so I just want to thank the board for your support of this program. I know that you financially support it, and we really appreciate that. Again, my name is Shelley Clark, and I'm the Director of Education Development, and this is a new position, and I've really enjoyed working with the Grow Your Own candidates, and I thank you for your support. If you have any questions, I'm going to take those like right after Anissa and Tiandra speak. So we'll let Miss Anissa Beeler come up here first. Again, she's in our classified to certified program, so we'll let her talk about her experience.
Hi, my name is Anissa Beeler. I am here to talk about my experience with the Grow Your Own program. And honestly, the Grow Your Own program is the catalyst that allowed me to be a teacher at this stage in my life. I graduated from Western in 1999, but I immediately started a family, and I stayed home with my kids. And time went by so fast, I ended up staying home over 10 years. So when I came back part-time as a sub. I had thought about going back and getting recertified, but at that stage of my life, I was raising 3 kids. It just wasn't the right time. I then applied as a kindergarten assistant in 2014. As a substitute, you couldn't get benefits. As an assistant, you could, and I didn't have that teaching degree to be a teacher. So I worked in kindergarten for a total of 7 years, and I loved every minute of it. But somewhere around 2018, I thought, I'm going to go back and I'm going to get this degree, or I actually go back and go for my certification and get that and be a teacher. The college I went to, they required an entrance exam, and that exam was the Common Core Praxis. I passed all parts of it except math, so I took it again. And I had to take it again. And I had to take it again. I could not get past the math portion. So that stopped me from pursuing that education. I could not go any further with that college, and I tried every other avenue, and at that point in time, they would not let me continue. So I resigned myself to think, okay, I've got a good job. I love being a kindergarten assistant. I'm going to stay there. January 2022, the Grow Your Own program was announced, and my friends were like, hey, you're going to go and go to this program. You're so close. You need to be a teacher. And I was like, yeah, I'll go. But I was so disheartened, and I was edging near 50 years old, and I'm thinking, I don't know if I can afford to go to school at this age and all these other factors, but I'll go and listen. So I listened, and I liked the things I was hearing. 2/3 of my tuition was going to be paid. There were other people in the room. I think I was more inspired by the people in the room than anything, because there were cooks, there were bus drivers, there were other instructional assistants that couldn't get past that praxis as well. So with all of this enthusiasm, I'm like, yes, I'm going to do this. So I applied. I was accepted in June of 2022. I started classes. In July of 2022, I applied at Central Hardin High School as a special education teacher in the English department. I got that job under a temporary provisional license. I completed my tip year, and I considered it a very successful year. I loved working at Central. But then a position at Lakewood opened up, and I really wanted to go back to the school that I originated at. And so now I'm in my 2nd year as a special education teacher. The Grow Your Own program is what was the catalyst that allowed me to do that and to be a teacher. And I'm really, really grateful for it.
And now we'll have Miss Tiandra Parker come up. She's currently the assistant principal at North Hardin, so she'll talk about being a member of the principal cohort.
For me, my story is very similar to hers. I started teaching at 40. I stayed at home with my kids. So I started teaching at about 40, got my bachelor's from Western Kentucky, then went on to get my master's. I was not ever on the radar of being a principal. That was not something that I was thinking about. And so it was through, people keep saying, you need to really do something different. You need to, really apply and become a principal. Well, I was like, I don't want to go back to school. I'm too old. I don't want to do that. And so then the Grow Your Own comes. And again, just the encouragement to go back to school and to get my principalship. I have to be honest, Western Kentucky does such an amazing job of preparing you in the sense of first thing they have you do is do a self-reflection. And I think you can't be a better teacher or principal without reflecting. And so that was one of the things that I loved about the program when I first started is we kind of reflected on where are you, where would you like to be, where are your strengths, where are your weaknesses, those kind of things. And so I went through the program. This year I started working at North Hardin High School. I was an 8th grade teacher at North Middle. So I got to follow my babies up to high school. And so it is really sweet walking through the halls and it is, hey, Miss Parker, hey, Miss Parker. Like, I can't tell you what it's like to see my children. They are so sweet. And so I will say this, Western Kentucky does a great job of getting you introduced. There's nothing that can prepare you on the job except being on the job. But they do such a great job of getting you introduced to what is to come. The last thing that I really want to say is that Western also, not only do they have you looking introspectively and having you to reflect on, who you are throughout the whole program, we're looking at who we are and, what are our beliefs, why do we do what we do. That was one of the last things, and I'm in my last part of it, yes, in December, so I feel like I've been in school forever. I'm ready to be with my grandkids. But one of the things that they do is they also have you to think about why do you do what you do, because the days are hard some days. And the professors are amazing. They are so easy to talk to and friendly. So this year, I was in my office, and one of my children came in, one of my previous students, and she's at the high school, and she says, Miss Parker, I have something for you. And I was like, okay, and so she gives me a letter. And so I put the letter up in my office because it keeps me reflecting on why I do what I do. And Grow Your Own is the reason why I can do what I do, because I wasn't going to go back to school. And so Grow Your Own helped me to, make that jump. But her letter says, Dear Ms. Parker, I want to thank you for all you have done, not only for me, but for your previous students as well. I'm not sure if you're aware of just how much you've truly impacted my life. You guided me through a very rough patch of my life and took me in as your own. I'm beyond grateful for the way you've helped me grow as a person. You've taught me to keep pushing even when I wanted to give up. You taught me to work hard and that confrontation isn't always the answer. Your guidance truly brought me to the light when I was in a dark place. I hope you enjoy your new position. I can't wait to see you graduate. I can't wait to graduate with you by my side. And that's literally what I get to do. I get to graduate. I get to see my babies graduate that I had in 8th grade. I can't say enough about the Grow Your Own program. Again, the professors are amazing. The way they prepare you in the sense of your mind and reflection and just why you do what you do. This is why I do what I do. Every day I look at that and it reminds me that's why I'm here. I love my kids. So, thank you all.
Thank you for allowing us to present that tonight during this ISD time. I could have come here and talked about the Grow Your Own program, but they're the ones that are making the impact. You need to hear from them and the appreciation they have for the investment you're making in all of our, Hardin County people. They're coming back and they're giving back, and our students are, seeing the impact from that. So thank you all so much. Our last part of our ISD tonight is from Dana Garrett. If you can pull up her presentation that was on the other slide. Dana is one of our social studies, civics teachers at Central Hardin High School. I know Judge Bland and I were talking a few weeks ago about the importance of civics and how important it is for students to have that knowledge when they leave high school. All students have to pass a civics exam, and we were talking about the impact and the next step of really how to get these concepts across to students. And I said, it's going to come from our project-based learning initiatives. And Ms. Garrett and her cohorts across the district, they planned 3 civics units, project-based learning civics units this summer on July 26th. And I want to have her share one of those tonight about the process we go through to plan a good project-based learning unit and connect that to our civics curriculum. So I'm going to call up Ms. Dana Garrett from Central Hardin High School.
Thank you so much for having me. And Mr. Wright, if you'll go back a couple more slides to the beginning, a few more. And that's perfect right there. Okay. Again, I am Dana Garrett. I teach civics and economics at Central Hardin High School, which for our school, it is the sophomore required social studies class. This is our second year of transitioning to project-based learning, and just wanted to briefly share the great impact I have seen it have on our students. So the first thing you see up there is just a good visual representation of how project-based learning is different from traditional teaching that we've done in the past. So when social studies in the past, even for me, it was a lot of lectures, some activities, quizzes, more lecture activities, quizzes, and then a test at the end, which was good stuff. But with project-based learning, it's more interactive, more engagement, and more intentional. So there's still time for some lectures and notes, but after that, let's get kids working on things to really think about what they're learning and analyze resources and information and kind of reflect on that. So the next slide shows a project we're in the middle of that we did last year that we had great success with. So we're still teaching the same content, we're still teaching the same standards that Kentucky has set, and we're still assessing. Just what it looks like is a lot different. So on the left, you see the old way. So this unit is our third one. We call it Lawmaking and Public Policy, where students learn about the process of how laws are made and the impact that it has. So traditionally, we would have some notes and lectures and quizzes and then a test at the end. So from a student's perspective, they're learning this because, well, they have a test and we're telling them they need to know it. And we would explain the importance, because I always argue civics is one of the most important classes that you'll take, and you'll need that information for the rest of your life. But it's sometimes hard for them to make the connection, especially as a 15-year-old or 16-year-old. So the new way that we do it on the right is, we now call this unit is all policy good policy. So that's the big question that they're analyzing and kind of wrestling with while they're learning the different parts in the unit. So the way we teach content is just more intentional, using those best practices that we know and sometimes maybe just forget about. And then we're also applying it to something that makes sense to them and that they can find relevant. So as they're learning about this lawmaking process, they are also learning about a bill that will likely be proposed in Kentucky in January, and have to understand, well, how does that process work? And if this law is passed, what impact could that have on me? And what can I do as a citizen to voice my concerns, whether good or bad, about that policy? So the next slide shows the standards that we follow in there. So again, they're still learning the same information, just how they're learning it is very, very different. All right, we'll go on to that next slide. So this is what it looks like. So the next one kind of gives you our project planning toolkit that we as teachers go through. I will admit the planning part is very intensive because you're doing a lot of front loading as a teacher, but the beauty of it, once you have it planned, the students have exactly what they need, so the teacher can act more as a facilitator versus telling them the things and them just kind of getting it. So we begin with the end in mind, where we think about what standards do we want to include. Then we create a scenario. So what are we wanting them to achieve? How do we get them engaged and excited about what they're going to learn? Then we plan how we're going to assess to make sure that they're getting the content that they need. And then we plan out the day-to-day. What does this actually look like? So the next slide shows, for this unit in particular, how we get them engaged. And we created a letter that kind of piques their interest about some laws that they know about and find relevant. So for example, why they now have to take that civics test in order to graduate. That was a Kentucky law that was recently passed. And get them kind of thinking about, oh yeah, there's a lot of things I have to follow, and I wonder why that is. And then we give them the instructions, essentially, in an indirect way of what they'll be doing. So instead of just giving this, saying, hey, this is what you're doing, one strategy that we use is called Knows and Needs to Knows, where on their own they come up with a list of things that after they've read this and we've read it out loud and they've looked at how they'll be assessed, what are things that they know that going into it, and then what are things that they need to know? What are some questions they have? What content will they need to learn? And this forces them to really think about what they're going to be doing and answers a lot of questions up front, because oftentimes if you just give it to a student and you tell them the instructions, you're going to get about 10 hands raised throughout saying, what are we supposed to be doing? So this small strategy just helps with that part. The next slide, I believe, shows how they'll be assessed. So with project-based learning, they're learning the skills, they're learning the content, but they're also learning other skills that they're going to need to be successful even beyond high school. So collaboration is huge. They're working with individuals, which we know in life, no matter what job you have to learn how to work with others. Oral communication, how to speak to others, that's something that they'll be assessed with, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of different ways that they'll be assessed throughout this unit. And what I loved about what Ms. Parker was sharing about her experience through Grow Your Own, and something that really connected with her, was her teachers having her reflect and self-assess. And that's exactly what we do with students. Before we begin, we have them talk with their group. What is something that you bring to the table, that you bring to your group? Because everyone brings something. Even if they're not comfortable or confident in their content knowledge, they're probably organized. They're probably a team player. They all have something to give to their group. So it's really cool to see them come up with those assets that they bring, and their group members also chime in and say, hey, you're really good at this. And then they come up with some agreements that they're going to hold each other accountable while they're working as a group. One of my favorite examples is, and Miss Gibson, another teacher at our school's class, at our school, in her class, her group, it was 3 male students and 1 female student, and this female student was very known for being the one in charge that's going to tell people what to do. So one of their community agreements was she was going to let others have a say in this as well. And they all laughed, but anytime that she wanted to take the lead, they would be like, hey, you remember that agreement we came up with? So it was a good way for them to kind of hold each other accountable as well. But also in this rubric, they have checkpoints to self-reflect. How would you currently rate yourself on collaborating, on agency, on oral communication? So if they're maybe not doing as best as they want to do, they have time to kind of think about some strategies that they can use to better serve their group. The next slide shows is kind of, again, what this looks like day to day. So this week, my students researched their bill of choice and received some feedback from their peers. They completed a web quest over the structure of Congress and who represents them at the federal, state, and local level. They had a mini workshop over the lawmaking process. Then as a group, they had to create a visual representation. And tomorrow they'll get some feedback from other groups about that. And then they learned about the executive branch's role in public policy and took a learning quiz to make sure this is making sense to them. Next week, my students will simulate the lawmaking process. They will reflect on what they have learned so far and add notes to their podcast transcript because they are also making a podcast in this unit. They're going to complete a review activity over checks and balances. They're going to engage in a jigsaw to learn how citizens can influence this process. And then our favorite part is they get to interview lawmakers and members of the community next Friday. This is something we did last year, and it was like the highlight for our students. They got to meet Representative Bratcher, and they got to meet Mayor Gregory, from the local level to state level, and go up to them and ask them questions about how does this process work? What is your thought on this bill that we're learning about? And for them, like I said, it was just really cool to not only meet those lawmakers, but have a chance to interact with them. And then they get to self-assess and reflect in between. So I did mention, so the project that they're working on while they're learning this is not only applying it to a bill, but they're creating a podcast that then they can share out with others about this bill and kind of share what is the intent, what is the impact, and what are some unintended consequences. So an outside audience will be able to hear their findings. And then just the last few slides I have are just some examples, again, of what it looks like. So what we're doing is nothing new. It's just being more intentional. So with vocab words, we need to know some content vocab. Instead of having them just look up definitions, they're learning it throughout the content. And as a way to make sure they understand it, I'll have them do a card sort where they sort them in groups and have to argue why those words and those concepts belong together. The next slide shows how we have them self-reflect on how well they think they're doing. So this was feedback from a student whose goal was to do better at seeking challenges. And then they create a real tangible goal of what are they going to do that. So for this one, it says, don't like doing more than the bare minimum, and I want to do better and seek harder challenges. I would say he's in developing when he is self-assessed. And then their goal today was to write more in-depth answers and actually keep up with the notes and not zone out. So then at the end, they self-reflected and said, I took down all my notes, stayed off my phone, stayed focused, reached my goal, but I would like to further better myself. So it's really cool to see and read these responses because you think, will the student actually do this? They're 15, they're 16, will they take it seriously? And they really do. So it's really the highlight of my day to see how they kind of self-reflect as well. And then the last is just some pictures, again, of what it looks like. The one at the bottom is our principal's favorite because Mayor Gregory, he's always willing to come and be a guest on our guest panel for our students. And our principal loves that he can get a picture of him in front of a Bruins banner, since, you know, he's a city man. But others, you can just see this how students are interacting and how it really looks a lot different. And we try to celebrate our teachers because this is different. And different can be scary sometimes, but they're jumping in, and the impact we've seen on our students has been phenomenal. And that's the last slide I have. After, if you go to the next one, shows from the last unit we just did with our students. I have them create, fill out kind of a feedback form, because the last project we did was brand new. We want to make sure we keep making it better. And these were some of the responses that they had about how did they feel about participating in a project-based unit versus more of a traditional unit. One of my favorites is it makes the class go by faster, and I'm not looking at the clock. We get to work with our friends. It's more hands-on learning while still learning the topic. So the days where you're like, oh, this is a lot of planning up front, when you see the impact and see the difference it's making, it's been really cool. So I'm excited that the district put this initiative with us. I think it's only going to get better, and I'm excited to see the great things to come.
And the impact is she's doing these lessons in conjunction with other teachers at other schools, John Hardin, North Hardin. They're working together so all students have an opportunity to have access to these type of lessons.
So I have a quick question. So you intend to use that same project going forward, maybe tweak it a little bit based on what you learned?
Yes. So this one that we're doing now, we did last year twice. And so it's already looking a little different because we learned a lot. Our last unit was a brand new one where they created a board game about the Constitution that they'll take and play with our fifth graders. And we still got a little bit of work to do. So yes, we are constantly self-reflecting and how can we make it better? What are things that we've learned? So that process has been fun.
Great.
Yes.
Glad to hear it. Thank you.
Thank you all. I also want to let you all that were here for recognitions and such, you are more than welcome to stay. We love having you here, but we also know that this isn't the most exciting thing in the world. So feel free to exit if you would choose to do so. But we'd love to have you if you want to stay. All right, next we have our departmental update. This month is finance.
We gave everybody a chance to leave because, you know, it's hard to make this real interesting. But I'm going to try. I'm going to speak my language. I think John has a PowerPoint.
We saw you come grab the money a while ago.
I have it right here. And they also left me a special present for you if you want to see me tomorrow.
False check, and she got the real check.
That's the way it works.
Yeah.
So I try to think of a way to speak in my terms, but yet make this a halfway worth listening to. So hopefully this will be a little bit of a spotlight for the finance department. So you see, and it's a lot of numbers because this is my language. So you're probably wondering, what does all of this gibber jabberish mean? So we're going to give a little bit of a spotlight on each of these numbers that kind of reflects what we do and how much really support and accomplishments we kind of do as one team. So the first number is the 1,920,000 number. That is the amount that we can estimate that we have saved on sales tax since Angel Parrott in my department has started processing and making all the purchasing for our construction projects. As you know, we save roughly 6% on most everything we buy by it funneling through us. It is a lot more work. John can also, he was, spearheaded this as well. It is a lot more work on her. She processes a lot of checks, has to go through those pay apps, and you all have seen some of those. So I really have to give a full accomplishment to Angel. She does that very well, and I don't know if John wants to say anything, but.
I would. Every chance I get, I brag on Angel. I can't tell you the number of times she catches mistakes that come to us after the contractor and our architect has looked at the pay app. She does a great job. So that doesn't include the $1.9 million million she saves in taxes. That doesn't include all the other things she catches along the way as well, so she is well worth what we pay her to do.
And most of this was just through July and August.
I have some here. You should probably clarify for the public why we save money that way, what that means.
Because we don't pay the sales tax.
Right.
If the
That's-
contractors had to pay it, then obviously they're not, tax exempt. So
But
we
we
do
are
the
tax
purchase
exempt.
order, but we are. So we do the purchase orders, we get all the invoices, we write the checks. So yeah, because it funnels through us. And that was something, that's kind of a district choice. Some districts don't choose not to do it, but I think for larger districts, it's really a no-brainer when you see what you save. So the next number is 700, and roughly between Angel and Sheila Adams per month, they process over 700 checks, and that don't even include all the EFTs and wires, and that's about another 200. So we process roughly between 700 and 900 payments a month. So to put this in realization at home, you probably maybe have 8 to 12 bills you pay monthly. So we have about 700 to 900. So it's a lot of bills. But Sheila, I got to brag on her. She's been AP clerk for almost 26 years. And she just is a machine. She can just sit there and enter. She knows coding frontwards and backwards, and that she runs that pretty much that whole AP as smooth as you can. The 1.5 million. So J.P. Morgan Chase, and I'm going to brag a little bit on our external resources too, because without them, they always help us. They're there when we need us. They created an investment team, and I have an investment person named Danielle. And she come to me, and I was one of the first ones in the state of Kentucky. We worked with Brian Woosley, the auditor, and KDE with the laws, and we created an investing, basically portfolio. I think currently right now I probably have anywhere between 75 different investments that I have to keep up with. It's a massive portfolio, and Danielle stays on top of it for us. When something comes open and we need to move money, she's on it. We send her when we bond, John and I send her all of our payment schedules, and she strategically invests all that money where it'll come due 3, 6, 9, 12, based on the payment apps. So we've been able to basically go from maybe $5,000 a few years ago to last year $1.5 million in just interest income. And this year, I wouldn't be surprised if that didn't double, because most of the rates I've invested recently have been over 5%. So Danielle knows what we can and can't go invest in. She knows very strategically when our cash flow tends to be lower in the summer months, and then when we can take tax revenue checks in December and invest that and earn quite a bit more interest. And I've got to brag on that team because she does a very good job too, helping me out. So 2,641. That is of a date, and it probably would never be the same all year, of how many employees we had currently at that date. It fluctuates, and I can't brag on my payroll girls, Tammy, Marcia, Nicole, and Hannah, and I'm going to brag on my counterparts, HR. We have a lot of turnover. We have a lot of people, they come in, they're gone the next day. We process people, HR, they get them to us, and we finish them before we can even get them entered in their deductions. They're out the door. So this summer, it's constant in our departments, but that's currently roughly, give or take, 50 maybe. We run about 2,600 people that our payroll folks are responsible to pay. They're responsible for their deductions. They're responsible for keeping up with retirement. A lot of responsibility for them. So kudos to them. I said I was all numbers, but there is a little alphabet, AA2. So I have to brag on Baird Financial. Most of you know Chip and Kelly. They helped, I believe it was me and John, go through the process of getting our own bond rating. And that was very imperative because we actually got a better bond rating than the state of Kentucky, than KDE. So when we go out to bond, we can get a better interest rate than basically the state, if that helps you kind of understand what that is. So it was a lot of work, in the forefront of getting everything lined out, because they don't give these ratings, just to anybody. But now that we have this, I think John can also say, it helps us go out and be able to bond and, get better interest rates. We're a lot more lucrative than having to go through the state. And it helps that we're a little bit larger. Not necessarily could any smaller district go for that. So 11,237, that's on average, the day I just picked, of how many purchase orders we have open at one time. And so that is a lot of purchase orders. I have to give kudos to a lot of my school bookkeepers and my central office bookkeepers, my staff, all of them that help go through all of this. It's a lot of input. It's a lot of munis that most people don't, particularly love. And so that's a lot of purchase orders that will eventually turn into payments. The 24 million, that number is how much June payroll alone costs the district. And you're like, wow, that's a lot. So in June, we pay certified employees for June, July, and August because of our fiscal year ending on June 30th. Typically, we run our department, Tammy, Nicole, Marcia, and Hannah, the payroll girls. They'll run anywhere from 12 to 15 payrolls. This year, I think we were almost at 20. We had a little bit of a munis glitch, but there's a lot of stuff that happens on that June 30. You got a lot of sick leave, a lot of retirements. You're paying people for 3 months. They change their bank accounts. It's a lot to process in June. So if you ever drive by in June, you will most likely see finance at work. We do not take off really the months of June and July. So the 181 million number, that's the number that you will approve tonight. That is the total of our working budget. So overall, this district handles about $181 million that they are for their budget for this year. So this is the working budget you'll approve tonight. This is typically the last budget we will approve for the 23-24 school year. So it's a lot of money that funnels through, a lot of money that you guys oversee, and I feel like we do a really great job. 299, so this is how many projects Melissa Conder currently has open that she's overseeing. And these are projects, and if you know anything about projects, they're very demanding. They have a lot of paperwork, bookwork, making sure everything's zero by June 30th or September 30th. And, we've had ESSER. So that's really put a lot of responsibility on, not only me, but Melissa. She really helps me keep a lot of those projects in line. And I can't say, she keeps up with, Angel kind of keeps up with the construction projects. Melissa oversees like the Fund 2, like all your preschool, your CHES, all the projects that we receive money from. So that's a pretty hefty job. That's a lot of projects. And finally, the 0 to the second is the biggest number because that is for 2 years in a row, we've had no audit comments at the district school, nothing. And I can say, I've been almost 19 years. This is the first 2 years we've ever had no comments. And to have it back to back, I think is incredible. And I can't say enough about my whole team, but especially Christy Valletta and Terry Vinton. We've had a lot of turnover in bookkeepers this year. They have spent more time working out in the field in the last 6 months. Plus, we threw a whole new software onto the bookkeepers this year. So I think that is by far the biggest accomplishment. And, we couldn't accomplish that. Brian spoke at lunch. He's been Stiles Carter and now Serenity Partners. They've been awesome to work with. He does a great job. And he helps us throughout the year. And I think that helps us keep everybody on track. So all of these numbers, I have to say, we're an awesome team. We have great support from Terry and John and you all. And, it takes a lot to make all of this go. And so I think it goes very well for as much as we handle on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely.
So.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I have to say, at lunch today, when Brian presented, I usually delay things with lots of questions. I was trying not to do that today, but I didn't hear any notes. I didn't hear any dings we took, but I didn't want to ask. I was kind of afraid to get that answer. But I'm happy to hear that we got none. That's really good.
Yep, none. So schools too, they were, we told them at ALM and I sent it out to the bookkeepers. And
Fantastic.
we're going to reward them with a lunch in October.
Fantastic.
So, do you have anything, John? Did you want to add?
Other than that Jessica's a great cheerleader. I couldn't say it any better than she did. She has a great group of folks that she supervises. They all do a tremendous job, not just Angel, but they do great. Finance and HR work well together, and they're really doing a great job.
Thank you.
Any questions?
So, there were three things there that seem unusual. That's the tax, the tax savings, the investment, and one other like that. They're all more than $1 million. I don't remember what the other one was, but they're all more than $1 million. That we do. That wasn't it was the underlying bond rating. Those are things that we do that other districts just don't do, and that's amounts to a whole lot of money over time.
Absolutely, it does.
There's over $3 million that we're
Just right
have
there.
to spend right there.
Yeah.
My 17th year on the board, this finance team is rock solid.
Yeah, this is really good.
Absolutely. And always looking for new ways like those to figure out either how to save money or make more money or anything. And Jessica kind of beat me to the punch, but we did have a great audit report today. It almost struck me as, we just get used to things and take things for granted. Because I remember last year when we got it and had zero findings, and particularly with the schools, we almost had a big party. And today it was just like, well, no findings. So, but that doesn't happen by accident or just overnight. It takes a lot of work and a lot of hard work and a lot of hardworking people to go into that, and we greatly appreciate that. All right, recognition of visitors. We did not have anyone sign up tonight. And then on construction updates, we got some updates at our lunch meeting today from Alliance and from JRA. Central is seeming to be pretty well on track. Knock on wood. Keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, but everything so far seems to be going pretty well with that. And we have a lot of other projects in the works, some of which are on our consent agenda tonight. And as our district continues to grow and as the community continues to grow, that's only going to increase. But there's a lot going on, but our architects and everyone seems to be on top of that. Is there anything you want to add to that, John? All right, consideration of the consent agenda. We're approving the school district calendar committee, Central Hardin High School FCCLA to travel to Birmingham, Alabama via commercial carrier. Central Hardin cheerleaders to travel to Orlando via commercial carrier. And Central Hardin senior class to travel to Georgia via commercial carrier. We received the financial reports. We're approving the 22-23 audit report that we've discussed. Approval of the fiscal year 24 working budget. And approval of the construction manager contract and revised BG1 for the child nutrition project. Approval of the construction manager contract for Phase 2 of the Central Hardin High School renovation project. We've got some change orders with John Hardin Turf Project, North Hardin Turf Project, Phase 1 of Central, and then approval of a BG1 for the Central Hardin Turf Project. And if anyone has not seen our turf fields yet at John or North, you should take a look. They look fantastic. Approval of the BG5 for early college and career center land purchase, approval of Bell Construction negotiated bid and revised BG1 for the early learning academy, and then approval of school-wide fundraisers. We've got certified and classified personnel actions, approval of a district athletic director stipend, and we received SBDM minutes, PAC minutes, and board meeting minutes. Is there anything that anybody wants to add, discuss, pull out?
Madam Chair, I'll move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I don't think we have any action items. No new business. And that takes us to superintendent's report.
I had a goal of getting out of here by 7, so we'll make it very quick. The other part, I know Jessica talked about all the projects, but I just want individuals to know that we continue to apply for grants in the district. We have Ms. Tanya Vows that does a fantastic job of this. This year, we have received over $60,000 in grants for the 22-23 school year, and that is $60,000 that we then don't come and ask the board for that money. We are currently looking at grants to start an orchestra program within Hardin County Schools. And she has just been phenomenal, and Bart Lovin sends us multiple opportunities. So anyone out there watching who wants to support the orchestra, we are definitely looking forward to the possibility of starting that program. I think it's long overdue. We have a beautiful performing arts center, and it has a beautiful orchestra pit, and it would be neat to have our own student orchestra there. We have a lot of members in the community that come back and play at the PAC for us, but I think it's time for us to put our students in that and have that as an opportunity for our students. The second thing that I want is, as I go out in public, I get a lot of questions about the growth happening in Hardin County, and when is the board going to start building schools? So there is legislation that says you cannot build until the students arrive. So while we know that there is an anticipation of a very large increase in the number of students in Hardin County, those students need to be in district before we can start building those projects. So, and it makes sense. I know a lot of people want to argue with that, but some of you may recall we expected a very large increase around 2012 in this county, and that did not come to fruition. If we had gone on and built before those students arrived, we may be in a better position in 2023. But that is part of the state law, and that is just to protect the taxpayer dollars to make sure we are building what's needed. But please know that the board is very aware of the situation. We are always looking of where we need to build the schools. We want to make sure we pick the best locations that will be convenient for transportation, therefore more cost-effective for transportation. So we will continue to pursue those areas, but just know we are aware of how quickly this growth can happen, and we are doing our best to prepare for that. The final thing is Central Hardin parents, or to-be Central Hardin parents. We have a place on our website that if you have concerns or questions about 8th graders possibly going to an alternate location of Central Hardin High School for the purpose of expediting that project there, please go to our webpage. One of the questions I know Mr. Wright has been answering is, will these students have the opportunity to go to the Early College and Career Center? The answer is yes. We will work with transportation to make sure that will happen. Can these students participate in band? Yes, they will be able to do that. Will these students have the opportunity to participate in extracurricular activities? Yes, absolutely. Will they have related arts classes? Yes, absolutely. So a lot of those concerns, just want you to know, will special ed students have services at any alternate location? Absolutely. So we do appreciate the questions, keep them coming, and we will do our best to answer those. When we have a decision of the site that's going to be used, I assure you we will make that known to the public, but we want to make sure we make the best decision for our students in Hardin County, and especially those who are going to be affected by this project. So when we have more information, we will put that information out there. So that's it.
All right. We've got about 30 seconds to make your 7 o'clock deadline. Board goal. Board calendar. September 27th at 11 a.m., the Distinguished Alumni Luncheon at EC3. School dismissed for fall break October 9th through the 13th, and then school dismissed on the 16th for a professional learning day for staff. October 19th will be our next lunch board meeting, which will be at Radcliffe Elementary, and then we will be back here at 6 o'clock that evening. and October 26th is the KSBA 4th Region meeting. And with
Madam
that,
Chair, I move we adjourn.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.